Hi, in this video, we're going to talk about what area of the law you should practice in. In speaking with law students and new lawyers, I find that this is something that seems to be a challenge for people in that situation, just because there's so many options and there's so little experience that it's difficult to match up or know exactly what area of the law that you want to practice in. I know I struggled with that same question as well. And just for purposes of context, for me, it was deciding whether or not I wanted to be a business attorney or a trial lawyer. And those were two totally different types of practice areas that it just caused me some conflict and some struggle in law school until I finally made a commitment to one or the other. And as you probably know, I chose business law and then parlayed that into more specialization into mergers and acquisitions. So the reason this is important to decide early on is that being a successful lawyer often hinges on the experience that you have. So the more time you spend working in or pursuing the area of law that interests you, the better off you're going to be, the faster you're going to get to where you want to go, and the more enjoyable it's going to be. If you waste 3 or 4 or 5 years practicing in an area of law that you don't really like, then you're really just setting yourself behind and not getting the experience that you really want or need to pursue the type of practice area that truly interests you. So I think this is worth spending some time thinking about, and hopefully this exercise will help you. So let's get into it. The first standard I would suggest that you should use to decide what area of law you should go into is your own personal experience before law school. So for me, I worked in business for 10 years before I went to law school. So I just understood what business was about. So it was really easy to get my mind around it. So that was one obvious choice for me. Some other things I can think of is I knew some lawyers who were beneficiaries of trust. That's right, trust fund kids. So they either went into trust and estate planning, or they went into probate and trust litigation. So that might be an example of your own personal history. Maybe you've been in a car accident or you were seriously injured in your life. Maybe you had to fight with some insurance companies for their unwillingness to pay certain claims. And so maybe your own personal experience and your desire for justice can fuel your fire to be a personal injury attorney or to be a bad faith insurance attorney. So you can just look at your own life and decide if something that has happened to you or the experiences that you have had will already put you in a position to have a better understanding of that area of the law. So the next decision process is to decide whether you want to be a lawyer for purpose or for profit. A lot of people get into the law because they want to make a difference, because they want to see change in the world, because they really want to help people, certain groups of people. And that's great. And so in that case, you're probably purpose-driven. And a lot of people get into the law because they think they can make a lot of money. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so I was more geared towards wanting to make profit. And so the reason that I put these two concepts up together is you usually can pick one or the other. It's difficult to find a scenario where you can both have purpose and profit. Now, if you find that and you develop that for yourself, great. It's not impossible, but it's just not common. And so here are some of the career paths that you can choose in areas of law that purpose really makes a big difference. Working for the government. You could be a district attorney. You could also be a public defender. You could also work for cities and counties to work on real estate and development projects. You could be in-house counsel for nonprofit organizations that help to pursue certain missions and goals for certain groups of people. However, working for the government, working for nonprofits, working for counties and cities usually means lower compensation. Now, you can still make a good living, and they also have some debt forgiveness programs that you might want to look into, but typically speaking, the salaries aren't very high, and that's why profit is really something that oftentimes doesn't quite go with purpose. Now, if you're focused on making profit, then you're probably going to want to work in the private sector. You might even consider working in big law. Or you might just find a law firm that is geared towards representing people with big problems or people who have a lot of money. And those private clients are the ones who pay the most. And oftentimes you can make that kind of money either in a medium-sized firm or a large firm, or if you develop your own practice area that serves that clientele. So the next big decision tree that you should consider is whether or not you want to do litigation, whether or not you want to work within the court system. This is a really easy black and white type question that you can evaluate for yourself that will help you decide which path to take. If you're the kind of person who wants to litigate, that means you like to write persuasively, you like to compete, you like to win, you like to go to court, and you're comfortable with conflict, then litigation might be for you. You're typically going to be looking at things that have happened in the past and analyzing them with regard to the rights and obligations currently in the present. And if that's the case, then you have a whole host of practice areas that you can choose from. But I would suggest that you continue to refine that down to whether or not you want to do criminal litigation or whether you want to do civil litigation. You might further break that down as to whether or not you want to do tort litigation, business litigation, or family law litigation, probate and trust litigation. So you can choose to do litigation broadly, but I would strongly recommend that you find a practice area within litigation where you develop your skills and experience. Now, if you were like me and you didn't want to do litigation, then you just decide that's not for you. You put that aside and you're probably going to go into transactional work or planning work or policy work. All of these types of things where you're really dealing with strategies, concepts, looking into the future about what is going to happen, making sure that what happens in the future is what's agreed upon, making sure that all of the potential risk that might exist with regard to any particular planning or transaction or policy are taken into consideration. This transactional side of the law are really for forward-thinking people, people who want to collaborate, people who want to come to a common outcome and want to work together to achieve certain types of mutually beneficial results that are going to happen sometime in the future. And so that's the transactional side of law. And you can do that with businesses. You can do that with personal, family, estate planning. You can do that with policies for cities and governments. The reason that I think that there's a pretty hard line between litigation and transactional, at least in my experience, is if you do one, you're probably not the type of person who can easily do the other, and vice versa. And so I would suggest that you pick one or the other, but not both. So those are some of the big decision tree items that you should consider when deciding on a practice area. And as you choose a practice area, as you develop your career, you will naturally become more and more experienced, more and more competent, and you will become a specialist. In later videos and topics that I will cover, we will discuss specialization and the benefits of that. But obviously, the first step is making some of these large, bigger decisions about the types of law that you want to practice and the way in which you want your career to develop. So I hope you found this video useful. Go ahead and leave a comment if you have any further questions. I'd be happy to address them. And subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos and sign up for my monthly email if you want more specific information that I send out every single month for law students and new lawyers. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.